Welcome everybody. In this video, we're going to start installing Prisma PHP Framework requirements. We're going to start from the very beginning, from the documentation, from the ground up. So we're going to start searching for Prisma PHP in Google in this case, and as you can see, create Prisma PHP app. I'm going to go to the documentation and you can start reviewing, because we're going to start from the very beginning as I mentioned before. And if you have any question or any doubts about the framework, you can always come and suggest in this case, and maybe a bug report, future requests, and general feedback. This is going to help us to improve the framework, in this case maybe in specific section or things like that, bug fixes, no? So you can collaborate, because this is free anyway. You can suggest and then we can get in touch in this case. Okay, next thing, in this case we want to go straight to the documentation. So in the documentation, as we can see, we have the version 4.4.6, which is the current version and which we're going to start working on it. This current video is the Spanish version, and this video is going to be specific, which is going to replace this section. So in this video, I'm going to mention everything you need to know how to start your development environment for prepare to work with Prisma PHP. So in this case, in the section, in this case, get started, we're going to go to the get started, because it's that we need. So ensure your system is equipped with, in this case, we're going to go to Node version. In this case, I have updated recently. In this case, we have 22. So we're going to go to Node in this case and download, in this case, you can download the Node version 24.14 long-term support, which it's recommended if you haven't installed. But if you're going to work with the 22 long-term support, no problem in this case. So this is just installation, so you can just click next and next. So in this case, until you get this section, in this case, let's say I'm going to start my CMD Node, and as you can see, I already have installed Node version 24, which is the current requirement version in this case, because we are installing. Next thing, we have some installation, so we're going to go to the download section, and I'm using Windows, so I should download this section, but I already have some installed. So what I'm going to do is that show you and guide you how you need to follow in this case. So in this case, once you have installed some, because some installation is very straightforward, so you just go straight, in this case, in some, and you go direct to htdocs. It's where you're going to start your project. So I have my own directory named projects, and where I have all my projects, in this case, working with Prisma PHP. Okay, so this is the second one. The next one, this is the interesting one, because Composer version is very important, because Composer have like some things to configure in this case. So there we go. You download this version in this case, because let me see. Okay, I'm going to download. There is no problem, because I already have installed. So install, I'm going to install for me only. There we go, because remember, when you start, it's very important that for Node, for Composer, There we go. We have, while you're installing, make sure to check the box developer mode in this case. So we're going to check this developer mode, and next you're going to install. In this case, this will ask you in this case, so you're going to copy this. It's very important. Copy and paste in this case. So next, it's going to auto detect in this case the good part that PHP is already being installed. Next, and we're not going to use any proxy, so next, install, and finish. Now what we're going to do is that I'm going to copy cmd. There we go. I have installed the PHP 8.2.12 because I'm using some in this case, and we are ready to go. So this is the three main requirements that Prisma PHP needed in this case. That's all in this case to get started with your Prisma PHP project. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to copy this, in this case, this command, and you can do, let's say, maybe let me projects. I'm going to install maybe using cmd. In this case, maybe you want to install using this terminal. Okay, so let's say I want to install using this terminal in this directory. In this case, this is going to be the root folder. So I can install directly, just copying and pasting in this case the npx create prisma php at latest. Or if you want, you can open, in this case, in VS Code and open the terminal, copy paste, and that's all you need in this case to install the Prisma PHP framework. So you can choose between the terminal or the terminal integrated in VS Code. So I'm going to use the terminal integrated in VS Code. As you can see, I'm in post directory. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to install. This is the very first, let's say, your first project in Prisma PHP. Enter. So there we go. It's going to ask my project name. So I'm going to say first test. Let's say just name first test, and it's going to start asking you question in this case, and you need to confirm if you're going to use that technology or not. In this case, I'm not going to use backend only project, so I'm going to say no. Swagger docs, no, but Tailwind CSS, yes. TypeScript, no, because I'm not going to use TypeScript in this case. I'm going to have it simple. Read the documentation, it's very important. WebSocket, no. MCP, no. Prisma ORM. This is very important if you're going to work with database. So I'm going to have it simple, so I'm not going to use Prisma ORM for this, but there in the documentation, everything is very clear in this case. Docker, no, because I'm going to use SAM in this case, so there is no need to have Docker. So there we go. It's going to start installing your project direct in this case. So remember that when you start installing, you need to wait until the package, in this case, node dependency and composer dependency finish installing. In this case, as you can see, it's going to start installing both dependency. There we go. This is the node section, and this is the composer section, and you need to confirm that you are receiving this information that your project was successfully created in this specific directory, in this case your directory. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to clear this, clear screen, and then I'm going to get into the directory in this case. So then I'm going to write code and open in that same directory. So I'm going to open the current, I'm going to close this because I have my clean project, in this case clean Prisma PHP project. Okay, so as you can see, installing Prisma PHP framework in your project, it's very easy. And what we're going to do, always even I recommend to start your project right away. npm on dev, and there we go. As you can see, the project is going to be, in this case, there we go, a project front end sync. So this is where you're going to give, in my case I'm using Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to give control click, and this is going to open this page. In this case, as you can see, it's in localhost 3000 port. So we have this. Okay, now let me explain you a little bit about the current environment, Prisma PHP environment. In this case, the package JSON, remember, belongs to Node. The composer JSON belongs to the composer, in this case PHP. So this is Node in this case, and the composer. So the thing is that this package in Node, it's used only in development mode only. So there is no worries about the package, because only is going to be in dev dependency, that is, which is very good, because you are not going to be using in your production server Node environment, only in dev. Composer JSON, yes, which is going to be required in this case, because as you can see, it's not dev requirement, it's required. So this means this is production. Okay, next thing where you're going to focus is in Prisma PHP.json. This means that this configuration file, it's where you're going to know what option did you choose and what option not. So as you can see, I choose that I'm not going to work with backend only, so it's false, Swagger docs false, but I choose to work with Tailwind CSS, and as you can see, it's true. WebSocket no, so on, and the current version. Okay, in this case we have components can there. This means that when you are working in let's say in a composer library, which if you have experience with, so you're going to copy paste, in this case, as you can see, vendor this and this directory have components, so which is going to bring those components in live when you are working in your project, which is very important. Exclude file, it's very important when you want to exclude any of the framework core files. In this case, let's say I don't want that in later environment, let's say later Prisma PHP update version, I don't want the framework must touch that env, because I'm going to modify my database, or I'm going to show errors, things like that. So I don't want that when the framework get updated must touch that env. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to come and say don't touch that env file. In this case, that's all what you need. So that env file, it's not going to be updated when the framework start updating the core files. You can do the same in this case with the layout index, because these files are core files in this case. So having this in mind, what we're going to do is that we're going to open the index.php, which it's this home page in this case. So as you can see, it's very easy to get started with Prisma PHP. So what we're going to do is that very simple example using Prisma PHP in this case. So I'm going to do this way, and the simplest example is that you're going to write HTML and get reactive out of the box, which is the one of the core out of the box of Prisma PHP. So I'm going to save this, and there we go. Okay, as you can see there, it's nothing to show. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say hello normal HTML, and then I'm going to put a script tag in this case, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say cons and say hello. So say hello in this case. I'm going to say let me get some space, pp state. I'm going to leave it empty for now, but there we go. We're going to have a button which is going to have unclick, and we're going to have some response, things like that. So there we go. We have the response and say hello, and as you can see, HTML basic, HTML and hello, and when I click, as you can see, this hello, it's been set in this case. The easiest way of having reactive out of the box when you are using Prisma PHP. It's look like React. It is, but in PHP. Okay, so next, as you can see, you can have all these goodies when you are working with Prisma PHP. Next thing, what you can do is that when you are, let's say, in the public section, you're going to notice that anything inside the assets, you can put your static files, and in your CSS, this is in this case auto-generated by Tailwind CSS, which there is no need to touch, because there we go, you have the global CSS. Sorry. Okay, as you can see, the global CSS. So what you're going to do is that if you want maybe any kind of styling, things like that, it's following the ShadCN Tailwind CSS convention with pattern. So you can do whatever you want when you are working with ShadCN or Tailwind CSS. So you can do it right here. The main entry point where you're going to handle is in your layout file. As you can see, we have the main layout, in this case the title, and this title, it's this section where it says create Prisma PHP app. And the way when you are setting, let's say in this case I want to set this page title for maybe SEO in for search engine. So what I'm going to say, use pp main layout, in this case pp main Prisma PHP. So in my main layout, I'm going to say main layout title and the description, so on. So there we go. I'm just going to save this, and there we go. We have the title now updated to hello world. Easy as that. As you can see, this going to override this section, and you can override with your current maybe requested. Okay, next thing, this link belongs to Tailwind CSS. As you can see, this is the style which live in the CSS section, and this script, it's the one which are doing this possible in this case when you are clicking in this case say hello, and it's going to start working as expected in this case. So the layout file means that a template in this case, a wrapper in this case, the container. So in app level we have one layout and the page in this case index. So this way you have the home row. Okay, now what about if I want to create a user row in this case? Let's say maybe user row. Let's say I have an anchor tag and I want to go to users. As you can see, there is no autocomplete completion suggestion. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to just create users and then index.php, and I'm going to say hello paragraph hello from users. In this case I'm going to save, and now you're going to see that when I search, now I have the users in this case. So I'm going to say users and go to users, easy as that. So now I'm going to go to users, clicking, as you can see, hello from users, and there we go. Easy as that. You can create, you can read more about routing documentation here in this in Prisma PHP documentation. Okay, next thing, error PHP. It's where you're going to, let's say, handle everything about error. In this case, maybe you miss typing something. Oh my. Okay, let's say here we go, users. Let's go to the home row, and let's say you are importing maybe non-existing any of the use non something else like that. So in this case, as you can see, any kind of error message is going to show, and the error PHP is the responsible for showing all those information. As you can see in this case, there we go. So if you want to modify your showing your errors, things like that, where there you can you have the flexibility of modifying in error PHP. Okay, next thing, not found. In this case, any row which is not found, it's going to show it. Let's say dashboard does not exist. As you can see, the not found page, it's going to start showing in this case. There we go. So anything about not found, we're going to modify in not found, and you can maybe do everything, maybe the styling, things like that. So there we go. Okay, next, what you want to maybe because this is not what you're going to be touching in this case, the settings. The settings belongs to core Prisma PHP, because this is not which you're going to be modifying, because if you modify, you need to know what you are modifying and why you are doing, because these are linked to this, in this case, the script section. So if you modify, maybe it can break internally maybe something. So be aware of that when you are modifying the settings information, that can break anything that it's related to the script tag in the package.json, because those scripts that it belongs to the core of the framework, in this case core files. Okay, next thing what you're going to do see is that inside, in this case inside src, you're going to see that you have a lib. In this case, this means the library where you're going to maybe install or create components. You're going to handle authentication, or maybe you're going to maybe do something when we middleware, things like that. So here we go. in out, you're going to see this authentication file, which is already prepared for anything you need for authentication. This authentication using Firebase JSON web tokens, which is very secure in this case. And so if you're going to use, in this case, maybe register with Google authentication, things like that, you have already the scaffold in this case, which you can read in the documentation. In this case, authentication, and start reading, and you're going to find out everything what you need about authentication in Prisma PHP. Okay, next thing what you're going to see that is the out config. In this case, this file is self-explanatory because it have many comments where it explaining. In this case, role identifier is role based, is token auto refresh. In this case, let's say the token validation is 1 hour, so after 1 hour you're going to be kicked off from the dashboard. But if you don't want that behavior, you're going to say, okay, what I want is that instead auto refresh the token, so this way when it's reached 1 hour, if the user still interacting with the dashboard, it's not going to be kicked off. So be aware of. And this other one, it's row private, so if you put true, you're going to see that I can go to other rows. And let's do some testing. Let's say just true, and as you can see, it's sending me in sign in because I don't have the credentials to go to the in this case to the non-existent dashboard. Even if I go to users, I can't go because all routes are private. And this is very useful when you have more than one route, or almost all routes you are declaring in this case is private. And imagine you're going to put in all following routes in page that is private. And you already know that not the behavior you want, so you just declare the all route is private and you get out of the box, and you can modify this. And there we go. As you can see, this is on default. When you are signing in, you're going to go to dashboard, you can update this too, and these rows are the authentication row, which as you can see, when the rows are private, it's going to redirect to the sign in. Okay, so on. The next one is the out middleware. As you can see, in this case, the middleware, it's very aware of any of the movement you are doing, because currently we put that we are registering that all routes was private. It's auto direct to the sign in, and that is the out middleware responsibility, because remember, middleware it's going to catch the request and before go to the authentication section or to the row. In this case, middleware is going to say no, you don't have any credential to go, because it's going to validate with the authentication configuration in this case, and it's going to say that nope, you cannot pass because you don't have active session. So this way you're going to have this. Okay, curse middleware. As you can see, this is a middleware which is going to start preventing things like when you want to allow any of external requests. In this case, in your that end file, you're going to see that there we go, optional tuning, that you can allow the methods what you're going to allow in this case. And remember, this goes related to that, in this case, to the .env file. There we go. Server access request is going to allow and depending on your course allow credentials, methods, headers, max age, and there you go, methods, headers, max age. So you can modify anything you want in this case. Okay, so there we go. In this case, well, you already know the environment of Prisma PHP, and this is the get starting of Prisma PHP. So next thing what you're going to see is that we have git ignore by default. In this case, we are already ignoring the not module and the vendor and the end file, which is very good. So this way you can just upload your or push your project into Git, and you're not going to have any issue because you aren't pushing the .env file, because if we don't have any git ignore, remember everything is going to be tracked, and this what we don't want. Okay, next thing, in this case we have the bootstrap file. Well, in this case there is no need to touch this one, but if you understand it and if you want maybe modify things like that, be aware this is the main entry point in the framework. As you can see, in this case, the htdocs public, and when you go to the public setting in the htdocs, it's going to redirect every request to the, in this case, in the index, and the index file are requiring the bootstrap file. So that way we have secure, in this case, like the others frameworks doing. So everything is going to be public section, but not going to come or not going to access to your environment, in this case, let's say to the env, if things like that, because that is the same way other framework are working. Okay, the post config, this is when you are using Tailwind CSS, and I already explained this Prisma PHP TS config. As you can see, this is for TypeScript files, in this case files that exist in settings. There we go. Okay, and well, node module already, that is the package of node, and the vendor you already know that is for composer in this case. Okay, so this that pp is that this is going to be using by the settings in this case, so there is no worry about this, because that's going to be built by the extension. Okay, next let's go to the documentation, and we already know that we are getting started. So next thing you need to know about, we already have this installation, we already talked about the how it's the environment, and if you go into maybe when you're going to use WebSocket, if you have any of this issue, we already put all information needed, in this case how to solve that issue. Next thing, in this case, the editor setup, in this case, I'm using Visual Studio Code. So I don't know if you are using any other IDE, so that we are, well, especially I'm not going to be covering because I don't understand the environment in this case. But for Visual Studio Code, which is general purpose, we you have this extension recommended for your installation. Prisma, if you're going to work with Prisma PHP database, in this case, so you're going to install Prisma, you just open your extension in this case and install, because it's going to help you. And then you have, in this case, the PHP Intel fence. I don't know if I spell it good, but anyway, just install, which you need to install it's PHP tag support. This is required in this case. You need to install this, because this is going to give you auto completion, all other tips that Visual Studio you're going to get very interesting developer experience. Okay, the commands in this case, which you're going to be almost using in this case, Prisma PHP in current latest version, you can even generate without interactive mode. So be aware of that. That installation flag, in this case, this is the installation flag which is current have support, and you can see that this command is very important when you want to update your project into the latest version. In this case, maybe we find some issue and we solve in the version which you are current, but in above version. So you're going to update your project, so this way you're going to start working. So in this case, in the Prisma PHP dev tools, which you can see that everything you need to know how to use it, things like that. So this is the let's say this is the section where you're going to install phpx.support. Okay, so as you can see, this video it's all about getting started with Prisma PHP. So in next video, which we're going to start talking, it's that we're going to build Prisma PHP dashboard starter kit, but we're going to start from 0 to hero. So before we're going to start, so there we go, you already know everything you need to know about Prisma PHP environment, because as you can see that Prisma PHP very powerful framework for PHP, and if you are working with legacy PHP, Prisma PHP is going to help you a lot in this case, because it have built-in routing, file-based support, same like Next.js, and as you can see, React, RPC, all about that. So if you want to, let's say, RPC support, in this case, JavaScript, you're going to come to fetch function. With this is the RPC section, which you're going to see that several functions. You're going to call PHP function directly, and you're going to get information. So let's make a small leaky example, in this case in the index. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say PHP, and let's call to this function just test, and what this is going to return, oops, this is going to return array, let's say success. Let's return a simple text, in this case hello world. That's it. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to put that hello world, in this case in this PHP in p tag, no? So let's say hello, let's do test, and then I'm going to say let's put test RPC, and we're going to tag our script tag in this case. So I'm going to declare the variable test RPC, and set, let me fix this state, so currently it's empty. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call to this function from my front end, in this case from my HTML. So this is so easy, that async function, and let's say fetch test. I'm going to await fetch function. Let's see, const response.pp fetch function. There we go. And now we have, in this case, I have autocomplete test. I'm not going to send any values, just so set, in this case, the response what it's coming from. And I have a button here, so I'm going to click fetch, and I'm going to save. Okay, now when I go to home row, in this case, I'm going to open, and let's say, there we go, and see the response. There we go, success false error, function not callable from client, which is very important that you're going to know that every function is private, which is very good. So how are we going to expose that function to be public in this case? So what we're going to do is that we have attribute, in this case, expose. So now our function is public. So fetch test, there we go, hello world, and we have the string send it from the backend, in this case in PHP. So this expose function have so many benefits using it in this case. So you have fetch function, and there we go, it's explaining the required authentication, things like that. So when you are using, let's say, even when you are maybe already logged in, you're going to say only logged in user is going to be using this function. So you're going to say that in this case require out true. So if I just come for, just let's say that this is for only required for authenticated users. So now I'm not authenticated user. So when I say test, there we go, success false, function not callable from client. But if I'm authenticated, I'm going to call the function as expected. As you can see, this way you have the fully control, and this is reactive, because as you can see, we are not loading reloading the page, we are calling, and so specific and so simple to do. And as you can see, it's very handy when you are maybe doing, like say, loading results from PHP, and then maybe you are updating forms, states, things like that. So this way, I want to start with brand from zero with Prisma PHP, because as you can see, Prisma PHP already have its getting started video. This video is made in Spanish, so I didn't want to do this video long ago, but until now, until today. So if there are any question about Prisma PHP, about getting started, or any issue or any documentation issue which we should review, we are open to receive feedback by your side, and we'll start maybe reviewing. So if there are any question, you can ask, no problem. Anybody? Anyone? Okay, so let me mention two things which is very important when you are working with with maybe for more advanced topic, and maybe you already test Prisma PHP. So class usage, import component is new file which we introduce, in this case this complete the task with file that have the same function declared, and this is going to help you in importing your component in most of the way. So if you are using include tracker, stop using maybe in future version, it's going to be deprecated. But this is the we're going to start using only import component in this case. And for advanced, using rate limiter in this case, maybe if you want to make a rate limiter, you have the guidance for apaku, because rate limiter use apaku in this case, and then you can limit your request in this case, allowing things like that. Maybe only 5 requests it's going to accept this by minutes, things like that. This way very useful when you want to have control of the request in your endpoint, because remember RPC, it's API call, but under the hood it's using JavaScript and PHP server to interact with. It's like the same React server action, server components in this case, same idea, just in different way in this case. So, well, it was a pleasure by my part showing how to get started with Prisma PHP. If you are maybe working with legacy PHP, or maybe if you are testing new framework for PHP programming language, well, this is a new way having very performant framework in this case, and reactive out of the box. As you can see already, we are function call, we already have authentication integrated, things like that, and not heavy loading everything. So you're going to install what you need when you need. You have the control over everything what you are doing in this case. Okay, so well, thanks for joining, and see you in the next video, which we're going to be talking about starter kits, creating Prisma PHP dashboard starter kit from 0 to hero in this case. See you and happy coding.